Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wine, Women, and Words. And with me, of course, is Michelle.
Hello, mid sip.
You should know better. And our guest this week is Mary Adkins, and she's here to talk about her book, When You Read This. So thank you so much for joining us.
So glad to be here, and I have my wine as well.
Yes, what are you drinking tonight?
Something red. I think it's a Malbec. I think it's a Malbec. It's from Trader Joe's.
Yeah. Okay, I can relate to that. Sometimes it's like red, white. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I generally stick with red, but within that, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. I have a white Zin that I've had for like 3 weeks now and haven't finished it. So tonight might be the night.
Yes, but you need to finish. Yeah, absolutely. And I am finishing off a wine that I've got from a friend brought me from France, because really good friends bring you alcohol from other countries.
That's a good friend. That's truly
yes.
a good friend.
Noted.
It is, yes. It's a Cabernet, so I'm finishing that off tonight too. So, Mary, your book is called When You Read This, as we mentioned just a few moments ago. For those who aren't familiar with the book, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this is my first novel, and it came out last month in February. It came out February 5th. It's epistolary, which I have learned is a word that not everyone knows. And actually, I don't know that I was really familiar with this word until I started writing a novel that was in this format. But it basically means a story or a novel that's in letters, or in this case, correspondence. So not just letters, because it's digital. So it's like emails, and some other kind of online documentation, like obviously there are blog posts. There's a blog that's part of the novel. There are receipts, Domino's receipts, some online therapist notes. So it has that sort of unusual format. But the story itself is about a woman. The protagonist has just died when the novel opens, and she's left behind a printout of a blog that she wrote. So she's left behind this manuscript for her former boss with a note asking him to publish it. And so the story is of her former boss, Smith, trying to get this thing published, and the ways in which her leaving this behind for him kind of changes his life and brings him in contact with other people who she left behind who are grieving her, like her sister. Most importantly, her sister, but also some of the characters that work at the firm where she used to work.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love the book, and I'm one of those where I knew the word epistolary, and I'm so proud of myself because I actually was able to pronounce it just now, because I'm one of those, I know the word,
yeah.
I have a horrible time pronouncing the word, so therefore I never use the word, and I think that's probably why it fell out of favor for being used, because nobody knows how to pronounce it properly.
Right.
And for me, I loved how unique and fresh it was. This is such a different format for the book, because I mean, we're used to epistolary. I feel like that's our word of the day that we need to drink every time we say that, by the way. So if you guys are listening into us right now, if you have a drink in hand, you better be drinking every time we say epistolary during the show.
Cheers.
Yay. And it's a very different take, because we're used to the internet-based epistolary novels where it's all straight up letter format, which is nice and romantic and very historical fiction girl here. Love that. But I love how unique this is with the blog posts. And then you've got, like you said, the receipts, and then you've got text messages, and it's very 21st century. And one thing that I was wondering about with that blog, it's very unique in that there's like drawings. And there was one drawing, which I have my book in my bookcase. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring it over. But there's this great drawing where everything's like in dots and dashes, or dots and triangles, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the exact specific point of it, but she was like whittling down her life to this drawing. And it brought me to tears within this drawing itself. And I'm wondering, is there actually a blog like this for people who have an illness or in general, or is it just something that you?
No, no, not that I know of. It was something I made up. And when I've been asked about this recently, it's something I've had to really kind of reflect on. Like, why did I do this? Because I don't think of myself as an artist at all. And I'm really not artistic. I mean, I can't draw very well at all, but I found, so Iris is the character, for anyone who doesn't know, is watching or listening. She's basically gotten this kind of 6-month death sentence, right? And she is processing that through her blog. And it's a graphics blog. So it's a blog where people draw as much as they do write, and they're using sort of like online tools. So they can use circles and squares and just lines and squiggles. And the reason I think I ended up doing that is because as I was trying to imagine how it might feel to realize, to try to make sense of a life that is cut short, I found that the thoughts that were coming to me were very graphic. It was like I was thinking thoughts, even for myself, just for anyone. I was thinking thoughts like life doesn't have an arc, and it doesn't have a bunch of arcs. It's like a bunch of dots, and the dots look different close up, and some of them are pointy and some of them are smooth. And so I just thought, well, what if I just draw that? What if I just draw that instead of trying to write that out, since it felt more visual than textual? And I did it. And I think it helped that at the time I was tutoring, like at my freelance, I was tutoring a lot. And so I was doing a lot of PowerPoint presentations. So I was like very comfortable using PowerPoint tools. And I think that made me sort of think, even though I don't think of myself as a visual artist, like I can imagine doing a pretty good job of these drawings, at least as well as maybe my character would do if she were also a novice, like if she were also just coming to this graphic blog platform for the first time and trying it out. Yeah, so that's how it ended up happening. And then I really found that I really took to it. Like I felt like making the drawings got to the heart of the sort of existential questioning that she was doing more than just writing words would. So I stuck with it, and I was actually I was really excited when the drawings made it through the whole publishing process. At some point I thought, like, these at some point are either going to be cut or someone's going to tell me we have to have a professional do them over. And that never happened. And so I'm really happy they made it into the book.
So those are all your actual drawings?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love and that makes it feel very real, because it's not like, as you said, you're not an artist, and I don't want to insult your art.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It felt like an actual regular person, regular human being was like trying to process these things in images as opposed to words. Because there are some things that she was contemplating where words were just failing in that kind of situation. So I could see that. Was there any kind of research that went into, because I mean, obviously you don't have a terminal illness, but was there research done into like the psyche of what happens when people have terminal illnesses?
No, I did research into the medical side of it. So I just in terms of sort of the kind of more boring pedantic stuff about dealing with cancer, like medicine and regimens and how chemo works, by just talking to an oncologist friend and then to a friend who was a recent cancer survivor. He kind of walked me through a lot of that process. But in terms of imagining how it felt to be at the end of life, I actually didn't I didn't talk to anyone about that. It really came from my heart and imagination. And I think probably that was just tapping into my own having experienced loss, like from the other, not being the one who was losing my life, but being close to others who were or have. And so being like that proximity death from a different perspective maybe is what gave me, I think, enough insight that I felt comfortable, writing it without really talking. And that it's an interesting thing, I think, for me, at least, as like writing fiction. I don't know if you guys would agree, but like sometimes I feel like I don't want to do too much research into something because I don't want to just take it. Like if someone tells me like this is what it was like when, I found out I had a terminal diagnosis. I don't want that to suddenly be what clouds I want to still be using my imagination for this character who is fictional, and want to be able to really explore the contours of what that could be for this character, and not feel kind of locked into or bounded by the thing that's a real person tells me they experienced,
Yeah, I can totally see that. I can understand that. And I feel like I'm dominating the interview here because I love the book. I read it, I think it was less than a week, but I think it's a record for Michelle. Michelle got it. I got a text in the morning, or it was in the evening, going, "Oh, I got your book." And then by the end of that day, within 24 hours, I got another text going, "Oh my God, I just finished the book. It's so good. When are we having Mary on again?"
Yay. Oh, great.
Yeah, I don't usually often have the opportunity to read for that long period of time. Like right now, I have a 5-year-old doing somersaults on the couch next to me. Should be in bed, but she thinks that we can't see her right now. So usually
she knows that you're kind of restricted, like you kind of have to stay by the computer right now.
She knows that I can't like turn and say, "Okay, you need to go to bed," or "You need to." Taking advantage of the situation a little bit.
And this is why I absolutely love your daughter.
Yeah, very clever.
Yeah. But when I read it in February, I was like on fire. I read like 6 or 7 books in February. It was crazy.
Oh, wow, nice.
But I started reading your book like at night at like 11 o'clock at night, and I read like the first 2 pages, and I was like, I'm too tired. I can't. Like, I liked it, but I couldn't focus on it. I was like, I'll just read in the morning. And I started reading in the morning, and I did not stop until I finished it, like later on that day. But what really like blew me away from the writing standpoint and from the characters was how well you were able to convey like their personalities and who they were through a letter. We're not reading the story from their perspective. We're not reading the story from how they see it. We're kind of getting it secondhand just from letters. And I thought that was really amazing how you're able to put so much personality in an email.
Thank you. So it originally wasn't in this format. I mean, the blog was always there. Iris's blog was always there. But initially the story around her blog was just prose, like it was written and, it was narrated. And so that decision is something that came pretty far into working on the novel, like a year or 2 into working on it. I decided to try to, I needed to do something to make it fresh and original. Like it was sort of falling flat for me, and I wasn't sure why it wasn't working. I love that I see a tiny foot next to and that's amazing. And so I basically was like, let me see if I can translate this story into totally like solely correspondence. So it didn't start that way. Like I had I had the characters in mind, like they existed prior to doing that. So it wasn't a challenge I did like all at once, like both creating the characters and creating the epistolary format. It came later, but I'm glad you felt that it worked.
Well, and I think that's actually kind of brilliant to do, like get to know the characters and then go, okay, so how would they write an email, or how would they respond to this guy that the sister has never met, and all of a sudden he's talking about publishing a blog that she knew nothing about, but and it's all about her sister, and it's very creative. I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, it was exactly like that. I mean, having the characters in mind and thinking, okay, how would these people I've now created email each other? So it was like it was actually kind of fun. That part I enjoyed. Like not, of course, not all parts of writing are like delightful, but that part was fun.
And then even the side characters, the intern Carl, I want to say Carl.
Loved Carl. Loved him. He was such a fun character.
At first, he was like he was so annoying for me, like to read. Like, this is an intern, and he goes, I'm really trying like not to let my work become my life, so I'm really not feeling like an 8 to 5 job right now, boss. But if I'm like, no, intern, I don't. But he ended up being one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Also, I feel like I had a lot of feeling that went into Carl. Both because I kind of feel like in my early 20s I was a version of Carl, and then like since then I've worked with Carls, and just all together it made me be like, oh, I can write a Carl. Like so yeah, he's that reaction that you had, I feel like is exactly what I was going for. Like, he's annoying, but ultimately he kind of like he pulls through in this way that you're like, okay, Carl.
Mm-hmm. You're
okay.
We can let you live until you're 30. It's
cool. Right.
And now these characters are also well fleshed out, and they're flawed, but they're still so very lovable when it comes down to it. I mean, even Iris's boss, which, I have to apologize. I read this late December, early January, so the names I haven't had a chance to go back and review. But Iris's boss, he was
Smith. Yeah.
Smith, thank you.
Yeah.
He was just so great, where he was just a train wreck and having to pull himself together. And Iris's sister, when she comes through, just how much of a dynamic she was and how complicated she was just phenomenal. What went through walk us through your process of creating them?
So Iris came to me first, and she is the most sort of like, if there's any voice in the novel that's mine, it's Iris. Like I feel like I'm the Iris in the book or whatever. And so so she was a very authentic character for me to write. Smith, likewise, I'm not sure who was my inspiration for him, but he was sort of was a character who came to me quite early. Jade is Iris's sister, as you mentioned, and she was much harder for me to identify as a character. Like, I knew she existed for a while, but my writing group's feedback was like, she's not interested. Like, she has no personality of her own. So I really had to spend a while figuring out who Jade was. And I feel like that finally kind of clicked once she became a chef, which she wasn't in the first couple of drafts. She was, I don't remember what her previous job was, but it was just much more sort of bland. And then once she became a chef, it just kind of all clicked. I'm like, oh, she's type A, she's a chef, she's a sort of a perfectionist. She's
really Monica. She's Monica from Friends.
Yeah, she's a Monica. She's totally a Monica. Yeah. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, now I know who Jade is. And that was, then it worked better because she was really different than Iris, and then it was like there was a clear contrast between the sisters, and they could be distinct. Yeah. She was a really hard one for me to write, though, because I don't cook. I'm a really bad cook. And so I really had to do, speaking of research, I had to do a lot of research to figure out how to write like an award-winning chef. So I had to, like, I read a whole lot of like food writing and like online kind of forums where people in the food industry talk about food. And then there are some recipes in the book, so I had to actually I had to learn to cook a little bit.
Yeah, and you just did an article, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I wrote about that for Lit Hub. Yeah, I wrote about this because it was like a very challenging thing coming up with those recipes. So I wrote about that experience of like just being in the kitchen trying to make that happen.
And it was so funny because she's a chef who doesn't like sweets, doesn't like
Right.
any desserts or anything. And then, yeah, it was funny. She was
Yeah.
conflicted within herself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like she's a chef who doesn't like sweets. Exactly. Which I wonder if just subconsciously my husband is like an opera singer who doesn't like a lot of opera. And I wondered if that was kind of in the back of my mind when I came up with Jade, because I remember that thinking that was funny when I first met him, to be like a thing and then not, be like, actually I don't like a lot of the thing that I make.
Wow, yeah, that is, yeah.
But I guess Jade doesn't make a lot of sweet. Like she's anti-dessert, sort of, right? But she's like,
which to me is like the whole point of the meal. So
it depends. I mean, if the cooking is really good, then you don't necessarily need the dessert. Like I could see where she's coming from. Oh, well, of course you're gonna say you always need the dessert. You're the one who taught me the phrase, there's always room for ice cream because it just kind of melts around everything.
It does.
Yeah, that's true. My mom would definitely say the same thing. It's like ice cream settles your stomach. My mom taught me ice cream settles your stomach. And I was like, and then I would tell people that once I became an adult and they're like, is that true?
Yeah.
If you say it with enough confidence, then everyone will believe it.
Right.
I say that about a lot of things in life just to get me through.
Yeah. Let's use confidence.
Exactly.
This is a really long story, but to make it very, very short, when I was a kid, I had a 4-year-old neighbor who was talking to Santa about him being a good boy or, bad boy this year. And Santa said, "Oh, well, do you eat your vegetables?" And he said, "Yes." And he goes, "What kind of vegetables do you like?" And he couldn't think of anything. And my dad goes, "Ice cream." And Santa was like, "Oh, well, that's half a vegetable." That was like my argument for a very long time after that. It's half a
vegetable. It's amazing. It's very generous.
I like you, Santa.
Trying to think what vegetable comes into it. I mean, if you have strawberry, you've got a fruit, but
I don't know. I always eat chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, that one's definitely not half of that.
But going back to the characters and the story, I thought it was really beautiful how you navigated all the emotions that Smith and Jade, I mean, mainly they had all of the emotions that they were dealing with, for losing Iris. They had, Jade, obviously, grief and anger and all of the sister emotions. And then Smith wasn't sure, was he in love with her, or does he just miss her because he depended on her so much? But then there was also the guilt of liking each other, while they were missing her.
Right.
And I just thought that was really complex. And again, just going back to the fact that it was all emails, I don't know if I would ever be able to convey all of that in an email.
Thank you. I think I definitely, there were moments where I was like, I don't think that we're going to be able to learn as much about this character through email as we need to. Specifically Jade, right? So we needed to learn a lot about Jade, and I didn't think she would share as much with Smith as we needed to learn about her. And that's where that online therapist platform came in, Jade's therapist is hiking Machu Picchu for his 70th birthday. So he is unavailable. And so he's making her write to him on this therapist away platform. And that was sort of an invention I came up with because I needed her to sort of like really share a lot with us, but it had to obviously work in the epistolary format. And I also didn't want her to be really unloading in an email to someone because I'm like, who would that be? I mean, it could be a best friend, but then that best friend needs to be probably more of a character. And so having an absent therapist who's like hiking and then getting sick, and so he's never available. And then just having the platform where she's really unloading and dumping was the solution I came up with for that. So yeah, it wasn't just like there were definitely kind of challenges where it was like, how are we going to get this? How are we going to convey all the information that I need to about this character in this format? But I'm glad you felt like the complexity came through.
It definitely did. Do you think you would write more books in this format again?
I don't know. I'm currently working on my second novel, which is also going to be published by Harper, and so next year at some point. And it's more traditionally narrated. A lot of it is, but there are definitely pieces of it that are similar. So there's some sort of found documentation portions of the novel that tell a bit of the story, and so it's fun that I get to do that again a little bit. Like I like doing it. Obviously, I guess I did write this whole book in that format, so I enjoy it, and it's fun to have another opportunity to do that. But it's definitely to a lesser extent than when you read this was. So yeah, so it's. I mean, I don't know. I think it would. I don't know if it's the kind of thing that I think it would just depend on the story. You know, like what. Like this story felt like it was a good way to tell this one. And so we'll see if that happens again.
Yes, well, we'll have to have you on for the next book so that we can talk about that one. Yeah, and we'll see, and we'll have to see for the next one.
What?
We'll have to see for the next one. We'll have to wait and see, and we can talk about it when you come back next year when the book comes out.
Yeah, I would love that.
Well, I believe we're at our half hour.
Great. Well, this was such a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I hope the sum results were entertaining.
She's finally like, if you can see her, she's like,
she's tired. Yeah, needs
done.
She's rest.
Held still for longer than 15 seconds. Sometimes that's the challenge at night, is get her to hold still, and she'll fall asleep.
Do you have 2 kids? How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Okay.
I have her and a 3-year-old that passed out the second he hit the pillow.
Okay, he's out. Yeah.
And I can enjoy my wine. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk with us. I absolutely love this book. It was really refreshing. I mean, we've talked a lot about the format, but seeing that format and having it break up like that, it was really refreshing. And it, sometimes reading just regular books, your eyes can get tired of it, but it made it a lot of fun to read.
Cool. Thanks. I'm really glad to hear it.
Yeah, and guys, if you're listening right now, go check out our Instagram if you haven't done so, because we still have a giveaway going on, so you guys can win a hardcover copy of When You Read This, plus an adorable little pop-up for your phone, which I thought that was so clever when I got that. I was like,
good. I know. I love them.
And it fits with the theme, and I almost kept it for myself, but I was like, no, I'm gonna include it in the giveaway.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. My mom's already worn hers out. She's on her second one.
Yay, moms.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
So we are going to continue on to our discussion of our book of the month, which is Learning to See. And every single time I say this title, I want to say All the Light You Cannot See. the word "see" in it. So we read that book how long ago? Like 2 years ago? I have no idea why I want to say that.
I don't know, maybe because the titles are so similar?
They have one word. One word is the same. But maybe it's like there's an L word in it and light. I don't know.
Maybe you just haven't been going up wine.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I admittedly have not read much this week. I'm getting ready to do a 13-hour drive from where am I? Chicago to New Jersey next week by myself with the kids. So
that's going to be awesome.
I've done the drive once. It's also 13 hours from here to North Carolina. And it was great. I mean, Lily's snoring right now. I wonder if the microphone will pick it up. And it was fine. I stopped and gassed up every time I hit half a tank because I'm paranoid of hitting those stretches of like nothing and running out of gas.
Oh, I am right there with you. The same way. I actually had a car. So listen to this. So the car that I had before the last one, something went wrong, and you can never really fix when the fuel gauge is wrong. So once I got to a quarter of a tank, it stopped registering where it was. So I didn't know if I was truly at a quarter of a tank or if I was on empty, because my light would come on at a quarter of a tank regardless of how much gas I had in there. So yeah, so I got into this habit of whenever I get down to a quarter of a tank, I've got to fill up my car. I can't help it. I get really paranoid that my car is not on a full tank. So I totally hear you with the half a tank. I don't blame you on that, because nobody likes getting stranded along the side of the road with no gas, especially when you have two little ones.
Yeah. So, I mean, that drive was fine. I've done that drive like a bunch of times, not by myself. So I kind of knew like hitting, oh gosh, where do we stop? Charleston, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, it's 8 hours from here to Charleston and then 5 hours from Charleston to Raleigh. So I knew like the road, but we've only driven to New Jersey once, and that was overnight, and I did not drive, so I don't remember it. So, and it's supposed to snow on Monday here and rain. So I'm really hoping for decent weather. Otherwise,
well, worst case scenario is that you can listen to Learning to See on audio. It's narrated by the wonderful Cassandra Campbell. It's available now on audio if you need to get it. Yeah, you could totally do that. Because we are going to have Elise on next week just before you leave.
Well, she's coming on Tuesday, right?
I think so, yeah. Because we're doing it early. Because she's got a book signing event on Thursday, and you're taking off for the wedding, so we're going to have an early episode.
Yeah, I think, she's on Tuesday, and I go out on Monday. So I could actually listen to the rest of the book on Monday on the drive over. Well, I'm hoping to finish it before then. But anyway, my point is, I have read up until her husband, forgot his name.
Maynard.
Thank you, Maynard. I was going to say Dixon.
Well, he's Maynard Dixon. Yeah.
There you go.
You were going to be right. I had one half, you had the other half. This is why we're friends.
He has kind of turned into a bit of a douchebag, and I'm really
a bit. I was so waiting for you to get to this part because, oh my goodness, woman.
I'm very disappointed in him.
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like so it starts to feel like he's got some sort of I want to say mental issues, I guess you could say. I mean, he's got like a commitment phobia because you saw what he did with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with his daughter, and then he kind of explains it away where she prefers to be away from him. She's got things against him. She doesn't really like him. But then on the flip side, he just kind of takes off on the family.
Yeah. And like, okay, who, I mean, and her friend kind of like warned her about it, like,
Mhm.
this is why I do things the way that I do them, so my husband can't take off on me and he has to come back.
And let's talk about how manipulative that shit is. I can swear now
Yeah,
because your kid's asleep.
yeah, you can. You're good to go.
Yes, I won't owe any money to Lily's college fund.
No, but like I feel I'm so okay. You say you want to get married, you
Yeah.
want to have a family, you want to do all this stuff. You get this woman to marry you, you get her pregnant, you tell her it's going to be awesome, and then you're like, oh, I have to go. Like I have to go out to the desert or wherever it is I have to go for like 3 weeks. Okay, new mother, I have to go away a week top. I would never be okay with 3 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
unless it was mandatory,
Mhm.
I would never be like, oh, okay, have fun, enjoy. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a terrible wife.
But
But
you know what? Okay, so let's back this up a little bit. Even though I've got my dog in here who's in the middle of this whole thing, like, yeah, we're spilling the tea and I'm joining in on this. So let's back this up a little bit. So yeah, you're a new mother. I get business, I get work, but be supportive of your damn wife for a couple weeks. Just a couple weeks. There's a reason why there's such a thing as paternity leave. Take some time, be with your family, enjoy the fact that you have a kid now, and then hold off maybe, a couple weeks to a month on taking that work trip.
and it almost sounds like she had some postpartum depression going on.
Mm-hmm. I totally think she did.
And I mean, I never I didn't experience that at all, so I don't know what that's like. But I mean, as her husband, how can he not see, like, she can't get up, she can't, take care of herself, she can't even eat, she can't even cook,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, but it's okay if I go off and be an artist because she knows that I'm an artist and she loves me for that, so it'll be fine. It's very annoying to
I
read.
wonder if there's some sort of cultural or generational shift going on in this, because I mean, in our world, in our generation now, it's, you know what, you're the husband, you're halfway responsible for creating this little human being. You should be here and support and help take care of this kid.
I mean, I'm sure there is. I mean, I'm sure postpartum depression wasn't even a thing for
I don't
them.
think depression back then was barely even a thing. I mean, what we have for mental health now is leaps and bounds ahead of what we had for mental health back then.
So I doubt, they even.
But I mean, when it comes to supporting your wife to the point where here, you know what? You're going to be up a lot with the kid. You're going to be taking care of and feeding this kid a lot. Let me feed you. Let me change a diaper or two. Not all the diapers, just a diaper or two.
That even goes back to like our grandparents' generation, raising our parents. The mom was in charge of the kids and the dad was in charge of everything else. So the mom just had to be tired and suck it up and deal with it. I am very glad I did not grow up in that generation because I would not be okay with that division of labor.
I would be a lot like Zelda Fitzgerald because I'm horrible with housework. I'm going to be honest. This is my confession online. I am not the domestic goddess. So I mean, yeah, whoever married me would be screwed.
I go through phases. Like there are phases when I'm totally on top of things, and there are phases when the clean clothes sit in the dryer for a week, and I am in that phase right now. There's a perfectly wash in the dryer.
Huh. I go through that all the time. Well, my problem is that Disney ruined me for actually folding and putting away clothes.
Oh yeah, you worked in retail. That's awful.
I did. I didn't just work in retail. I worked at the Emporium on Main Street Retail. We touched on this a little bit last week, but I think a story that I didn't get to tell last week was the fact that one night I spent the whole night, 8-hour shift, on one of those large, those large tables where they have the T-shirts in the clothing stores that are
Oh,
folded
yeah.
by size. Spent one night just working that. And when I walked in there, 18-year-old Diana was like, "Oh, hey, this is going to be a breeze. Just one table you have me assigned to? Okay." I kid you not. I'd fold one side of the table, make it all nice and organized. And then I'd go to the other side, and it was like I didn't even touch it. And I just kept doing that all night because people would just come through, and it was like a freaking hurricane. And I think subconsciously, I'm traumatized by that experience. And that is why my clean clothes have a tendency to always be in a hamper or the dryer. I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say it. I need therapy from having to have to work at Disneyland.
Well, I think I was going to say something about laundry, but I mean that's essentially my kids' bedrooms. Like I clean them up, make them look all nice and tidy, and then they have friends over to play, and it looks like nothing ever happened.
Well, I also feel like with Dorothy, we start to get a sense, or Dorothea, I should say, we get the sense of an early modern woman. She was rule breaking back then. Just the fact that she worked, she was a working artist, that she wasn't going to just be the one who stayed home and let her husband take care of everything. And I feel like going back to what we were started talking about with Maynard, he wasn't the kind of guy that she could rely on to take care of everything. When it came down to it, I mean, you're probably you haven't really gotten there yet, I don't think. And hopefully this isn't a spoilers, but you probably figure out it's going to head that direction anyway, where he wasn't reliable. So she had to be the one to be the reliable, steadfast one for the family.
Well, I think part of his appeal to her when they first met was the fact that he was an artist. Like he understood what she wanted to do, and he wasn't trying to make her fit into any kind of mold. And he like accepted her for who she was. And I mean, maybe on a certain level, she kind of expected him to change a little bit. Not, not, she would never tell him to stop being an artist and stop doing what he loved or anything like that. But to understand that, there are sacrifices that you have to make when you have a family. And I don't think he was willing to suffer for his art, but he wasn't willing to let his art suffer for him.
That's a really great way to put that.
Right?
Love that. Yes, it is really good. And she didn't have to be like her friend, where her friend traps her husband in that relationship.
Yeah, that was messed up. I feel bad for her husband.
Yeah, that's really manipulative, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna be the starving artist, and you're gonna go out and have the real job, so that you can bring us home money and take care of us. It's messed up.
It's like two extremes. Like,
yeah,
Dorothea was like, you do you. I love you for who you are, and her friend, I can't remember her name right now. Imogen? No.
Yeah, I think that was. I was thinking it was Imogen. I again left my book somewhere else, so I could not pull it out to refer during the show. So
my book
hopefully
is in
we're
my
right,
car.
and people listening aren't screaming at us.
We're so on our game tonight.
Oh, I am a hot mess tonight.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long week. But
Imogen.
Yeah. She was like, the other side of the coin for Dorothea, where she, she was going to make her husband change, and she wanted to make sure that he was taking care of the family and that she was taken care of, which it's not right what she did, and I don't agree with it, but it was pretty smart.
I think where the successful marriages, because here I am going to dole out some marriage advice. I kind of feel like I'm pseudo qualified for it. I mean, I have been married for over a decade, but my opinion when it comes to successful marriages is teamwork. When you're a team, when you were focused on the same goals, then you can be successful. Like if Maynard and Dorothea, when they were on the same page, when they were working together, and apparently now talking with my hands tells my dog that yes, I can jump up in the middle of the camera and be in the middle of the conversation. But anyway, when they were working together, they were good. But then when they weren't working together, that's when things started to fall apart. And you see with Imogen and her husband, they weren't working together and she was taking advantage of him. And that wasn't fair to him. And so I forgot where I was going with this because my dog got in the way.
But it was really good.
I had a moment of brilliance that was starting to come, and then it just went poof. It's been a week, guys. It has been a week.
The only woman who's kind of like come out on top as far as like a happy marriage life, and I don't know if this changes later in the story, is Phronsie, who married
Phronsie.
You know, like when she announced that she was getting engaged and she was getting married, I was like, oh no, you've known this guy for like 5 minutes.
And she came off as so flippant and like, I'm going to flirt and get my way with everything.
Mm-hmm. But I love her. And now she's like this happy little housewife who, you know, looks out for Dorothea and always has a place for her. And
I guarantee you there's teamwork between her and her marriage, between her and her husband. And she's not trying to pull the wool over her husband's eyes. I'm just throwing that out there.
Do we know if Phronsie is real also? Do we know?
Yes. From what I understand, Phronsie, I believe, is real. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Oh, good. I like her.
And we're going to have to come up with our list of questions. And you guys, if you've already read Learning to See, or if you are learning to see and you have questions, please message us. Let us know. We'll throw your questions in the hat with Elise when we have her on the show next Tuesday.
And that's if you are reading Learning to See, not if you are actually learning to see. But if you have questions about that too, because that's what you said. You said if you're learning to see or if you are learning to see.
Good Lord. I need more wine.
It's
the joys of live podcasting. It's the best.
That's okay. It's all right. We've made it through the week.
Almost. I've got one more day.
Well, yeah, tomorrow. I have to do things tomorrow. I have to clean out my car. And so I have a theory, and I've seen it around, everyone on Facebook and other people, but like I can have a clean house. I can have, clean-ish. I can have presentable kids. I can be presentable. My car, I really don't care about the inside of my car.
I run out of energy. I commute and drive so much that it's just kind of like so much gets left behind in my car. I try to clean it out, but
it's so bad. I could probably, like the kids and I could probably put together several outfits based on the clothes that are left in the car.
I leave sweaters and scarves in there because you never know when you need an extra layer. You really don't.
I mean, it's bad. I have to clean out my car tomorrow. And
I've got a couple pairs of shoes in my car. I've got a bag of books because, I mean, really, who knows when you need a book to read? Just saying. I've got my workout clothes in there because basically what happens is I put my workout clothes in there 2 days before I psych myself up for actually going to the gym. So I have no excuse. They're there. Finally, and I get sick of looking at it to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym tonight.
Just so I can wear them back into the house when I get home. I don't have to worry about them.
Exactly. I'm prepared for when I psych myself up to go.
Fish came out to say hello.
Oh, I missed his presence. We have my dogs climbing all over the place.
I don't know. I feel like maybe he doesn't realize that we're doing the show because I'm not in my usual spot.
Mm-hmm. Probably. So we are just about at our hour.
Yes.
So,
I was going to say, we're rambling at this point, so we might as well just wrap it up.
yeah. But we had some really good discussions on the book, and I can't wait to have Elise on next week so we can talk more about it and ask her all those questions, because it is a really good book. I love it when we get to have historical fiction on.
It's a wonderful book. I love, like, I know we kind of mentioned it, not last week, the week before, how easy it is to read. And, you know, we've read a lot of amazing books this year, but some of them require like a lot more focus. And it's an easy, like, it would be a great summer read.
Oh, absolutely.
If we had summer weather ever, it would be a great read.
You know, we should totally do like a post or something with our summer recommendations.
Yeah, because this would be one.
Right? This would totally be one because it's such an easy read. I love her tone when her writing tone. It's a really nice tone.
Yeah. I'm still mad about Maynard Dixon.
Oh, be prepared. If you're mad now, I cannot wait for those texts this weekend. And
I hate when characters disappoint me.
I'm going to get an earful and I'm going to forward them on to Elise and we are going to laugh.
Okay. Well, anyway, you guys, so we're having her on Tuesday. So if you have read it, send us questions. We'd love to share the questions with her. And check us out next week when we have her on the show.
Yep. Good night, guys.
Bye.